And welcome to our fifth episode of Funded Founder Fridays. This month we'll be talking about funding and fundraising and deploying funds. Welcome. This is Funded Founder Fridays, where we create space for founders to ask honest questions about the startup journey. Every Friday, we're exploring one theme that impacts every founder, investor, mentor, and builder in an innovation system. I'm Rosalia Bañuelos, CEO and co-founder of Creatopia Inc., where we are centered on exploring the relationship between safety and creativity. We know that without safety, we are not capable of creating original creative thoughts. And my co-host is Ben Kigobati.
Yeah.
Is that how you say your last
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Ben Kegobadi. Welcome to the fifth episode of Funded Founder Friday. The theme of this month is how to get money and how to deploy money. Just very simple. I'm the founder of Noble Founder and Red Ruby Capital. We are here building an ecosystem for startups and everybody in the startup ecosystem to make a greater impact on the real problems in the world. So today, joining us, Julie Rachui from Austin. And I was introduced to Julie by our good friend Ken from Iron Grove. Thank you, Ken. Really appreciate that. This is the power of ecosystem. This is the power of people coming together and doing great things.
Mm-hmm. So Julie joins us from Austin, but she's actually from close to Houston, and she could talk a little bit about that when she starts talking. And she has spent more than 20 years helping companies navigate some of the most exciting and challenging stages of growth. Her career has been focused on startups, high growth companies, private equity, and venture backed businesses, turnarounds, and mergers and acquisitions. She's been the operator brought in by investors and founders at funding to build the infrastructure, systems, teams, and operational foundation needed to scale successfully. Over the past several years, Julie has also led turnaround initiatives for companies across the country, helping struggling businesses identify what's holding them back, making the tough decisions, and getting them back on path toward growth. Those experiences have given her a unique perspective on the common oversights founders make and how they can avoid them. She's also been on the front lines of numerous acquisitions, leading due diligence and helping companies prepare for successful exits. So today we're going beyond the typical fundraising conversation to talk about something every founder should be thinking about from day one: how to build a company that's not only investable, but ultimately acquirable. Julie, welcome to the show.
Well, thank
and
you.
we are so excited that you're with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes. As you mentioned, I was actually raised in Richmond, Rosenberg, not too far from here. So went to high school there, left, went to college at A&M, and then as any good Aggie does, I moved to Austin and thought I'd only be there a year or two, but here we are 25 plus years later and love it. So still there.
Yay.
Still there. But it afforded me an opportunity when I got there to break into the startup space. And that was a space I didn't even know I wanted to be in at the time. But as I got into it and learned more and got connected and so forth, it's been a blessing of a career and a place to be with all of the high-tech startups and all the stuff going on there. It's been a really, really neat ride.
I'm excited to just hear about your experience, because I'm sure everything that you'll be talking about today, I mean, you have stories and you have key points.
I do
and
have
you
stories that you're going to get some giggles out of. But
excited.
hopefully you take something away and go, I don't want to be that person in that next podcast. So.
Yes, feel free to take notes. And we do have a studio audience, and we do remind our studio audience that this is going to be interactive throughout. So if you have questions at any point, feel free to come up to the booth or the little stool there, grab the mic and ask a question. We usually have a Q&A, but we want to keep it conversational and interactive throughout the show. So feel free to ask questions at any time. Do you want to just start?
I can kick it off. I wanted to, after speaking with Ben at length and just kind of understanding what you're doing, I know that you have had episodes already that speak to how to raise money, why you want to raise money, all the steps you need to go through to ensure that you're investable. And I want to add another layer to that today of, if you're a founder that's looking to pick up investment money, that means you're looking for an exit at some point, typically an acquisition, merger, something like that. And if you're going down that path, it's really, really smart as a founder to start from day one, understanding what that acquisition is going to look like, what's going to be required of you, and what's going to be important to have and be able to get your hands on down the road. So it's critically important. And like I said, I've got some pretty funny stories. I can laugh now, but not so funny in the midst of it all. But yeah, one of the things that founders typically assume is that a buyer down the road, whether this be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever your exit plan looks like, they assume that buyers care about customers and revenue. And that is true, but it's not the whole truth. The truth is that, especially institutional buyers, they're looking for things like predictability, scalability, leadership, what systems you have, your customer base, your data integrity, all the things that help them feel comfortable to know that you've reduced their risk in your investment if they move forward with purchasing your company. That all of those things collectively are referred to as your enterprise value. And that's really what founders should be honing in on from day one. And so, in talking about what an acquisition looks like, as I was putting an outline together for this, it dawned on me that we may have people in the audience or listening to this that have never gone through an acquisition. They've never sat at the table and been handed the due diligence list. And as a result, they have no idea what that looks like, so they don't know how to prepare. So
Do you
I
want to
want
do a
to
little survey to see if?
let's do it. Let's do it. Who here today has ever been the lead on the due diligence in any kind of acquisition or merger piece? Um, Not surprising. It's usually not a lot of people involved when this goes on. But what I want to do is take just a second to talk about what that looks like. And from an institutional standpoint, I'm just going to talk today about private equity purchasing your company. You could always run across an individual that wants to buy it and doesn't care to ask questions. They just need to see your bank balance and they're good to go. Well, if that works for you and that works for them, great, but that's not anything I've ever been part of.
Would you say that's due diligence?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's a lot of luck, is what that is. But no, at any rate, what it looks like is an overwhelming, very somewhat chaotic mess of a request of data and information from you. One of the things, the first thing that we're going to talk about here has to do with building systems from day one. And one of the things that you're going to note when you have private equity sitting across the table handing you your due diligence paperwork is they want everything that you give them to be system generated. And that is maybe one of the biggest takeaways that people should take away today as far as what to expect, because it might change your mind on how you go about building your business and some of the systems, resources, and tools you use to build it. Um, so yeah, the system generated piece is huge. And so let's just jump into it. What does that mean for you?
That's the question I have. What? Because
Yeah.
I think when I think systems generated, I a couple things come to mind.
What it means is exactly what it sounds like. They do not, if they ask you for your financials for the last 6 years and they want your financials sliced and diced 14 different ways, which they will, you do not want to hand them a PDF of something you typed up in Word. They want to see the system date and time stamp of when you pulled that data out of your system, um, so that they can cross reference over time as they're going through their piece of it. So, as far as accounting softwares, your CRMs, your ERPs, your inventory control, your manufacturing, all of that piece, project management, product roadmaps, KPIs, and dashboards, all of these things need to be in a system from day one. And the reason for that, I've run across founders that think that, well, I can save $60 a month if I just don't get QuickBooks yet. My accounting's really simple. I can just keep it on a Post-it note over here and I can check my bank balance every day. And so I should be good, at least for a year or so, I can get by with it. And that's just a huge, huge no-no. Yeah. And I'll explain why in just a second, give you a perfect example. But at the end of the day, you want to ensure that you are buying, it doesn't matter if it's a $20 a month pipe drive. You don't need to go get NetSuite for 6 figures right out of the gate. But if you know you're going to be evolving to NetSuite over time, and that's one of your milestones maybe in your business plan, then perhaps get a lesser ERP to start with that you can export data into NetSuite with and still have everything system generated. So I'll tell you a story, and this is a sad but true story. Walked into a company about a decade ago, and they had been around for 15 years or so, very successful company revenue wise, 2 founders, and they were wanting to exit. I got the call and I met with them, and they said, we have the weirdest thing going on. What's happened is we've always done our business kind of on paper and not really legit, for years, decades. And we moved to this huge enterprise software. We paid $90,000 for it last year. We're good to go. And this is going to be great. But the funny thing is, we keep asking our accountant for financials out of it. And our accountant is telling us that what we get back is a bank balance or a single PDF page that doesn't look like it came out of the system. And I said, well, when you log in, why don't you pull the financial? What are you getting when you pull the financial? Well, we don't know how to do it. We didn't go through training. Oh, wow. I said, oh, okay. So the next thing I asked, I said, then they admitted that they decided to save a couple of bucks and not spend the $14,000 it was going to take to train all of their team on this enterprise software when they got it. They just expected everybody to, I think, watch YouTube videos for a while. That didn't work out too great for them because we ended up getting into the system and the system was empty. Nobody had been using their system that they wrote a check for $90,000 a year ago for. And they were devastated and they wanted to fire everybody. And, it was a thing. And my first reaction was, A, y'all didn't check this before now, but B, your people didn't come to you and say, hey, I know we're supposed to be working in the system, but we're not. And well, these guys had a decision. We had, they wanted to get acquired. They had some interested parties at the time. And they said, what do we need to do? And everyone told them, no one's even going to talk to you unless or until you've got all your data somewhere where they could review it and so forth. So we ended up taking their existing team, putting them all in that $14,000 training immediately. But we hired some industry veterans as part of this turnaround project. I hired a handful of industry veterans that had that particular software expertise so that they could be our in-house resource when we had questions, but they also wouldn't need any hand-holding to do their job. I had them handle all current and future business and just sit on the floor and do that. The existing employees we got to do what ended up being almost a 12-month project of completely recreating history for that company in that system. And as part of that, I would tell you that we all got to add something to our resume. We're all now considered, in my mind, crime scene investigators because we had every single, I want you to think about this. This was a $12 million business. Every single customer interaction, bank transaction, credit card transaction, new business, vendors, every single piece of everything that business did, it existed in 80 email accounts, about 10 phones with text messages. Um, they weren't using the accounting software, so there was a bunch of yellow legal pads we got to screenshot, and it was something. But we had to use bank statements, commission statements, vendor invoices. I mean, you can't even imagine the amount of work that went into tracking down the information and getting it into the system, dated properly, closed out properly, audited in the system properly. It was a giant undertaking. And all of it could have been avoided if they would have just been on a system, any system that had the capability to export data from the beginning, or if they would have forced their team to use the software they purchased, a year prior, would have made a big difference. So if you want to be a crime scene investigator, I've got some tips for you, and you can put that CSI thing on there and, put it after your name and feel important. But I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. So that would be my first point is understand that every piece of data that a buyer is going to ask from you must be system generated. So because of that, you need to be thinking from day one of what systems can I get and what's going to work for me now price wise, functionality wise, et cetera, and what can I grow into, et cetera. And that's the way you need to be approaching your systems. But to ignore it and think, oh, I can just, our accounting's so simple, it's no big deal. My tax accountant is fine with napkins, That's not a good way to plan. Not a good way to plan, for sure.
I can see lots of heads are nodding. So I think the biggest takeaway is if you wanted to get that done, you need to build the organization. I think it just gets into the people culture aspect of building a startup.
Yep.
And your tech stack, right? Like that's essentially your tech stack.
And understanding what that tech stack is going to look like from day one, what you can get away with, what you can cheap out on and get the lesser price because it still has these 4 pieces of functionality that you require, et cetera. All of that is fine, but it should be considered right out of the gate because you're going to be in a world of hurt if you have to recreate history down the road. Let me just tell you, it's not fun.
Or try to like integrate a system once you've already built the company, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that leads us into our second topic, which is people. Now, in the example I just gave, those 2 founders, they weren't managing their people. Clearly, they didn't have the right people. If not one single person on that team, and there was about 12 of them on the team, not one of them ever raised their hand and said, we're still doing it the old way. Does anybody need to know? So that was a problem in and of itself. But one of the other things that you need to understand that a buyer will be looking at down the road is your people around you, your leadership team, your mentors, your advisors. They're also going to look at how you've created culture with your people and what that culture is. Is it a positive culture? Is it one they're going to have to fix or maybe completely undo and redo type thing? All of these things super, super important. And as far as that goes, by getting the hiring right, And that's a whole other topic, can of worms we could talk about on another day. But the hiring piece, people are not born just knowing how to screen for
Mhm.
hires. That's not a skill set that you typically get taught in a college class, even per se. Um, and so it's very, very nuanced by the company, the environment, the industry, etc. But the good news is, as a founder, you get to dictate that. You get to decide what your culture is going to be. And then you hire for that culture. Very, very important. And so know that the people around you, um, like I said, your leadership team has to be top notch. I tell people one of the biggest hiring mistakes that I see regularly with founders, especially new founders, is you're sitting at a table, they're sharing, and they're so excited to let you know that their best friend from high school, who has been the number one pest control door to door salesperson, he's great at sales. Therefore, I've made him my VP of sales for my enterprise software company. And they don't even understand the magnitude of what a mistake that could be. Certainly, if your best friend from high school sold enterprise software for your competitor, hey, run with it. But do think through some of the most obvious hiring decisions and choices, and make sure that as a founder, you're self aware enough to be able to find and figure out what your strengths and your weaknesses are. And with that, you can then hire to complement your skill sets and fill in the gaps that you recognize about yourself. So that's really the biggest piece on people and how to make sure that you've got a very well rounded presence to present to a buyer later on.
My bachelor's is in psychology, so I love the psychology of putting teams together. And just I mean, I follow a lot of like founder accounts and just like business development accounts on Instagram. And there's something that I keep seeing recurringly, that it's not the business you're building, but who you have to become in order to build that business.
So true.
And so the amount of like self-awareness, and in self-awareness, the introspection that requires,
That's
the
right.
just ability to be like ruthfully honest with yourself, with where you are and where your team is. And so yeah, the self-development part is, thank you for mentioning that, it's huge.
Totally. Very, very, very much so. I get a lot of questions too on, do I have to have a mentor? Do I have to have an advisory board or member or what have you? And the truth is, no, you don't. But will that be an asset that could catapult you and speed up your growth and your ability to scale? 1,000%, 1,000%. If you can go and seek out people that are experts in your industry, have, expertise that they bring to the table, skill sets. Do they have a Rolodex? Do they have a network that you'd like to access, whether it's from a customer referral type base or just from, hey, who do you use for your taxes since this is so weird, or what have you? To be able to send a text at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night and say, this just happened, now what do I do? And get a response from somebody who's been there and done that, the value is huge. So I encourage people, and I actually have a little methodology where I help people find who a perfect mentor might be for them, and then help them do the reach out, because 9 times out of 10 you don't know them already.
Yeah. I mean,
So
it's huge. There's so much you don't know. If
totally.
you're just like starting as a founder, I mean, personal experience. I don't have an MBA. I started just learning and wanting to build something because of impact. So I had a few. I went into a few cohorts, met a few investors, mentors, but I've just kind of been learning and teaching myself in different ways. And when I started just having conversations with Ben or other people in the ecosystem, like how much more you can learn with just a conversation.
100%. 100%.
And how applicable it is to where you are.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So thinking through who your people, your team, and those that surround you and influence you in your business, thinking that through early on and making sure that that's always in the back of your mind as you're making hires and so forth, you'll never regret it. Never regret it. The next topic would be financial readiness. So
Can we take a little tiny break? 'Cause
totally.
We want to do
Yeah.
we want to do a raffle, so we can get some audience participation. Shout out to Apollo. I think he's in the audience somewhere for sponsoring our raffle items. If you look under your seat, somebody has a sticky note under the seat.
They're all laying on the floor.
Wow.
Just kidding. We just wanted to move you around.
Yeah.
Did we find it? Yay!
Ah, yeah.
What's it say on the sticky note? What did you win? So can you come up to the camera? There's a mic right on the stool. Ryan, you want to give it to him so he can tell us what he won? Congratulations! Thank you for coming. You can just leave the sticky note. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, shout out to Apollo for sponsoring. We'll have more of those as we continue.
That's
So,
awesome.
thank you.
That's awesome. The box was the size of a Rolex or something. So I was getting excited for you guys. I flipped it over. But,
It's just like a startup. Like the idea
Oh,
of
yeah,
building
yeah.
startups, like, when you look at it, it's just like shiny, big, and you open it, it's just like, what is in there?
Hey, a raffle's great no matter what. No matter what.
But yeah, thank you, Apollo. We really appreciate that.
That's awesome. So the third point that I would make to everybody in this effort is financial readiness. So every founder that's out there that's looking for institutional money has already figured out that they've got to build a pro forma. They've got to have all of their sales projections. They've got to have their OPEX. They've got to understand the milestones and the schedule that they're looking to hit those milestones on, and they've got to be able to prove their use of funds for their investment. And with that, it's always assumed that a founder needs to know their numbers. Very great assumption. In case anybody out there was wondering, here's the rundown of the things that you must have memorized, and you must know these monthly at a minimum. And that's your burn rate, your runway.
This is when you take out your notepad or something if you want to take notes.
You just need to stand in front of the mirror at night and memorize them. That's all I have to say. You're going to look mighty dumb to a lot of people if you can't just spew these out off the top of your head.
Sorry for the word.
But no, your gross margins, your revenue by source or product, your customer acquisition costs, your lifetime value, your MRR, ARR, your churn, and your EBITDA. Those are the obvious ones that everyone tells you, oh, make sure that you always have these numbers. It's very, very important. And it is. There's one other thing, though, as it relates to your original pro forma and plan for your business. You need to be tracking your variance between actual and that plan. And to track it monthly, you're too late. It needs to be tracked daily or weekly at the biggest interval. And the reason for that is really obvious if you think about it. It's so that as a founder, you can watch your plan, you can see your actuals, you can see where you're over and under, and you can make course corrections and tweak on the fly. If you're aware of a trajectory that's gone on the last 3 days and you know what happened 3 days ago and you could flip that switch again or turn that ad back on or whatever the case might be. If you can identify that in 72 hours as opposed to let's wait until the 15th of the month to look back at that last month, well, you're already ahead of 90% of all the other founders out there that are kind of hanging tight and going by the seat of their pants. So, very, very important that your data integrity be right, which kind of leans back to that whole system conversation. But once you have that, you're going to need an accountant or somebody on your team to run your variance reporting in real time every day or a few days or week for you as a founder. Really, really important to know how you're tracking to your own plan. Very, very important.
So, if somebody is just, in ideation, or if somebody has a potential customer, right? Like I'm having this conversation with this big customer. They're going to give me this big business, right? This is my accounts receivable. I haven't got the money yet. The company is not making any money, but, I'm having this really uh, uh, certain conversation with certain people that I'm going to receive the money. So I don't have any of those numbers yet. If I go to like a buyer or like an investor, then what is the strategy?
Well, if you're early on and that's happening early on, you've probably got a real reason for that. Maybe you've got a pilot customer that you're not charging them because you're getting their feedback and they're helping you work out kinks in your software or something like that. And if that's the case, that's perfectly explainable. So now you're looking at your variance reporting, and as long as you can explain, do you know why you're trending away from plan? And if so, and you know that it's going to correct itself with the next customer contract or whatever that looks like, then you're probably fine. Carry on, keep going. I wouldn't make a big, tweak to anything if you know exactly why the variance is there,
Okay.
is my point.
How about people that they have just a promise, right? It's just a contract that is coming. It's a customer that is coming, but it's just a promise. I have seen many founders, they have a full business plan on, I met like 5 people. They're going to give me, each promised me is going to be like each, 20 grand. I'm like in the trajectory to earn 100K, but they don't even have the contract yet. So now they're looking for funding. So how does that work? Like if somebody come to you as an investor or somebody like you wanted to seek advice, how do you advise them?
Well, I think there's other things you can do. If you don't have a signed contract, do you have a letter of intent?
Okay.
Can you get them to sign a letter of intent saying, if this software gets to this point and has this functionality, I will absolutely pay this amount for it. Those type of things are the way you could get around that as you're presenting to an investor to help them understand where you are. And I think those would be very well received. If you're that far down the path and in those conversations, that would be a really easy way to do that.
Just one more question on financials. Like a lot of people, when I started my company, I was just like, this is the biggest idea ever. It's $1 billion company. This is $1 billion idea. And it is like, if you even look at Shark Tank, a lot of companies get there and, it's just like a $1.5 billion company. I'm just selling 2% for, I don't know, 500K. And everybody's, whoa, like, how do you feel about $1 billion opportunity that is not yet captured? How do you, like, if I come to you and say, like, I need 500K for $1 billion opportunity in exchange for 2% of my company, how do you respond to that?
I think the valuation that a founder puts on their company, it just needs to be backed up with metrics and data and math. And if you can back that up and explain your valuation and why you're looking for what you're looking for and what percent you're willing to give up for that, more power to you. But if it's just coming straight out of the sky and it's because you've always wanted to be a $1 billion company founder, not super smart. But if you've got the data, if you've got the metrics and the math is mathing, then you've got the conversation.
Awesome.
It's all about the numbers.
Totally. Totally. All the
Know
time.
your numbers.
Definitely. Know your numbers, memorize them, say them in your bathroom mirror with your hairbrush, whatever you need to do.
It's going to be my morning routine now.
Too funny. So, speaking about customers, the next thing that I would point out as something that is crucially vital is your customer base. And I have another crazy story for you with this one. So, your customers are absolutely the lifeline of your business, obviously. That's where you're going to collect your revenue, and that's where you're going to get your referral sources. That's the accounts you're going to be able to grow over time. And so your customers are your lifeline. With that being said, I would add that you can have a customer and it could be meaningless because if you don't have the right engagement and traction with that customer, you don't actually have one. And I'll kind of share what I'm talking about here. I was part of a software company. We were a SaaS company years ago, and we spent about a year in R&D developing this software, and it was killer. It was the billion-dollar unicorn. It was going to change the world. And our two founders had gotten themselves in and had started a sales cycle with both General Mills and Anheuser-Busch. And it took them about 12 months, and we had to get to proof of concept, and our MVP had to be standing up and all this. But we ended up getting both of them as our first two customers. We thought we are on our way, just hold the phone because this is going to be huge. We sign up these guys, they're paying about $30,000 a month for about 100 seats each. And we truly just were like, this is amazing. We put together the onboarding, we did all of the training with each of their 100 users. We gave them all of the documentation. We created, handbooks and tools and resources and trainuals and all the things. And then we sat back. We were like, this is fabulous. Now we're on to Nestle and like Miller Coors, I think, at the time. And we're sitting in a leadership meeting one Friday morning, and somebody pulls the dashboard up, and we're clicking around in it. And we opened up this one tab, and we noticed that only about 20% of each of their user base had even logged in the last 30 days. And we all sat in the room looking at the same piece of data for a few seconds, just about to die. And then we thought it was wrong, but that was a whole nother rabbit hole. It wasn't wrong. It was right. So we quickly, like that afternoon, put together a customer success triage, if you will, and knew that if we lose our first two huge pilot customers paying us this much money, giving us this kind of proof of concept for future investors and future customers and so forth, that we were doomed. That was not going to work long term. So we ended up doing this triage. We put together a customer success division, and we sent a couple of our engineers, and we were specific about sending engineers. We sent them out on site to shadow these users that were not using it for like a week. And they came back and said, I got it. I know why they're not using it. No, they understand how to log into the software. They understand how to get the data out, but they don't understand how it's going to help them do their job any better or faster or what have you, nor do they understand why their boss wants them to use our data and not their old way of doing it. And so we quickly revamped and put together some sub 5-minute little cartoon videos showing, here's your job, Joe, in customer support or whatever he was in. and this is what you do all day, and here's how you do it today, and here's what it would look like if you did it using our software. And once we conveyed that and did that for each department and each little work functional area of theirs, the light bulbs all went on. And so our adoption started getting higher and higher and higher, faster and faster. And it took us about 90 days to build up to what we thought was an acceptable between 70 and 80% of all the users logging in, on a regular basis. But it was definitely a lesson for us that we had the customer, we had their payment, we had their signed contract. But at the end of the day, there was no way we were going to be able to use them for proof of concept to talk to Miller Coors for us or with us. They weren't going to be able to be anybody that could tout how great our product was and refer us anywhere because they didn't have their own adoption at the time. So I share that your customer relationships vital, vital, whether you realize it or not. And don't just take orders and put them aside. You need to monitor, are your customers using your product? Are they using it properly? Are they using it to, its biggest power? Are they doing all the things that you expect them to do? And do they understand why? And if so, great. If not, get yourself a customer success division that's their only job.
And that's
You
just
know?
ongoing research for you,
Totally.
right? And data and improvements for the company and your product as a whole.
Yeah,
100%.
and I think it's gonna affect your churn rate. It's gonna affect your retention.
That's
and
right.
all of that. Yeah.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right. So you want to create raving fans out of your customer if you can. That's the end goal for any business, any industry. You want your customers to tell everybody they know, to bring on their competitors, the whole nine yards. Um, and I get founders that ask me all the time. They say, "Well, I hired a VP of sales. He's great. I don't think I need to talk to customers anymore." Wrong. Yes, you do. Um, the founders need to be customer facing and have, if not the primary relationship with your initial customers, you need to be one of the primary relationships right out of the gate. The reason for that is in this acquisition phase down the road, the buyers are going to talk to your customers, and they're probably not going to talk to the customers that you give them the name and number to call. They're going to get in all the data they collect from you and call whoever they want. And so if they call some of your oldest or biggest accounts and the leadership team doesn't have a personal relationship, they can't speak to ever having met that founder or that VP of sales, they didn't know you had a help desk and so forth, that's a really bad look for you. So I tell founders, get right in front of all of those customer relationships as you can, that's possible, but certainly your critical and key ones right out of the gate.
Right. And so balancing, because we talk about working on the business as opposed to working in the business, and just how you balance that,
Yeah.
right?
It is
How
a
you
balance.
stay integrated and at the same time grow and have the high level view of everything. Yeah. it's a balance.
Absolutely. I think there's a time and a place, and I would even argue that those founders building those relationships with those key accounts early on, I don't think that's working in the business. I think that is working on the business because you are doing what we're talking about right now. You are ensuring that 3, 5, 10 years from now, when a buyer wants to talk to that customer base, that customer can immediately say, "Yeah, Ben, he was great. He was wonderful. He was integral when we were getting started, blah, 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 blah." That's what you want.
Right.
And so, very, very important to do that.
I think the fan base of your customers, I think that's the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
You want them to be your advocate, go out and, start advocating for you rather than, becoming your biggest complainers, right?
100%.
United Airlines just destroyed my guitar. That's a really famous story, right?
Yep.
But then you have other customers that they had really good experience with United. So some of them are advocates, some of them are complainers. But I think important is how you balance this. So like you said,
So
it's the
true.
balance, and it's a balance for the founder working on the business, working in the business, working aside from the business.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So the last two functional areas that we'll talk about that should be addressed right out of the gate are the ones that I typically get the eye rolls for. And I have to admit, I was one of the people that used to eye roll this. But it's documentation. The documentation for everything, for your processes internally. A lot of founders, their eyes glaze over. They look at you like, yeah, I'm going to get to that. And let me help you understand now how important it is to have everything in your company process wise documented, and not only documented once. A lot of founders or companies will hire people, their operations first hire will come in and do all that documentation in August of 2026, and then nobody ever looks at it again. Kind of a problem. So I would tell you, as far as your documentation goes, it's absolutely required, because future buyer is going to want to see what your intellectual property has looked like the whole life of your business, essentially. So you need to be documenting everything that you do, how you do it, and then what that's going to do is allow you to delegate over time. That takes away from the founder dependency that buyers do not want to see at all. They want to see that the founder can come, go, be there or not. The company is stable and fine. Everyone knows what to do and how to do it, whether they're there or not. And so at the end of the day, that documentation actually serves a few purposes. I get people ask all the time, how on earth am I supposed to remember to go, update my documentation on this? And it's actually, I have a perfect answer for it. In my experience, I put an operations meeting on the calendar once a month. Sometimes we did it once every quarter, but once a month for an hour. The first 15, 20 minutes of that meeting is everyone that's responsible for any piece of documentation for the company has to be there. And the first 15 or 20 minutes, everyone has to read through and take notes on their own documentation, their own department's stuff. Take notes and make notes if anything's been changed over the last 30 days. If they have an idea for a tweak they could make to this step right here, could they eliminate that step to save X, Y, and Z? All of these things, they make all these notes in the first 15 or 20 minutes of the meeting. The rest of the meeting is spent discussing what they are made note of. So if they've got an idea and they'd like to change a process for 30 days and see how this works, or if you have a new software that you're looking into and that would change this whole piece of documentation, as long as everyone in the room approves, this is the direction, or this is the thing we're going to try, or what have you, change that documentation, date it, move on. It's an hour a month. Nobody dies, you know? And you're able to keep that documentation current. And with that, you're able to use it for things like new hire training. Now, all your new hires, nobody has to sit and handhold them. You can point them to, once they've been trained, here's your backup resource for if you forgot any piece of that, where you go to remember all the steps to this process and so forth. So definitely worth the time.
Would you recommend also having, I mean, I know everything's digital nowadays. Would you recommend physical documentation of anything?
Um, I think there's definitely a place for that. I have not personally even seen handbooks and stuff printed in decade. Everything is digital now. So I think it's personal preference. If there's something that you feel strongly about. Maybe you're hiring an entire department for customer success and they all need access to a 3-ring binder that they can flip through on a desk that they're sharing. I can see that being a really perfect example of when you might want to do that. But otherwise, it's pretty much all okay to be electronic. Pretty much. And then the piece that goes hand in hand with this is your corporate governance, your legal,
Yeah.
and your compliance areas. You need to start a document repository from day one, because that buyer is going to need to see, just short list, customer and vendor contracts, NDAs, any intellectual property documentation, patents, source code and the ownership of it, employment agreements, cap tables, investor documentation. Every document you could possibly think of that a company gets signed will be asked for if it gets signed. So because of that, best practice on how to handle that and be prepared for it from day one is to go ahead and create a document repository, set your folder system up, get a naming convention, put a process to that. And then initially, I would recommend you have one single person in the whole company responsible for all of it for a short period of time. And then when you have confidence that that person has it under control, maybe has a table of contents that you can double check things on and you feel very comfortable, then start adding in some administrative help to maybe scan stuff for that person later or what have you. But there's no reason you need every employee responsible for some piece of this. But it's critical that you have it, because to have to go back and search for this stuff, you can't imagine. You're now you're getting back to your CSI designation and have to be a crime scene investigator to go search for that NDA you signed 4 years ago. You know,
We don't have time for that.
yeah, nobody has time for that. So, with all of that being said, I think it's really, really critical, just to kind of wrap this up, that founders, of course, do everything that is standard and typical that would get them the investment. That's a whole nother checklist. These things today, in just helping to allow founders to understand what the future may look like, you don't want to hit the walls and have these hurdles and be delayed a year because you're having to create history in your software system, and so forth. You want to be able to move when the time is right. You never know when you're going to get that phone call of, hey, we'd like to talk. And you don't want to scramble. You don't want to have to be in scramble mode and shut down maybe momentum that you're working on, with your sales team or whatever, so that you can try to get yourself together for this other. So my advice is to always build that business as if you're looking to get it acquired any day now, and you're going to have all your ducks in a row on the way.
That's great.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So
Yeah, it's just like
so much
even
information.
earlier stage startups, if you want to go and raise fund from angel investors or any investor, you need to have everything that you said.
Totally.
It's just not just like mature startups, just like early stage startups, you need to have your data room, everything in place. Otherwise, you need to put your hat and get your magnifier and just dig and dig.
Yeah. Count the hours. That's going to be a late one then. Late one
yeah.
for sure.
So we can say that this is day one for anybody that doesn't have any of these things in place.
That's right. That's right.
We
Get it together,
discussed.
folks.
We discussed building systems before you need them, people and influencers, your financial readiness, customers, engagement and traction, and documentation of your processes. Do we have any questions from the audience? This is the time we're going to extend the show 15 minutes to allow for questions. We can take a little bit so you guys can think about the questions. Thank you so much.
very
I have
welcome.
homework for sure. we are actively integrating all of our systems because we moved into this space about 3 months ago now. So we are having to pivot and redo a lot of internal everything. But that is a huge thing that Benjamin and I have been super focused on in the last couple of weeks, and it does take time
It does. It is
integrating
time consuming.
everything.
There's no way
Yeah.
around it.
And
Truly.
it's essentially your brain dumping everything into your systems so that you can continue to engage with it, because otherwise you're just trying to remember things and
Yeah.
trying to like work from just what from or your puny little brain can handle.
Totally.
It's a lot of information that you have to be aware of.
100%. And even like your banking information. Most founders early on, they're using personal credit cards, dad's credit card. So you've got transactions coming from all directions. And to have to recreate all of that at a later date and prove, I use this charge for this thing, and here's why it's on my P&L. It's a nightmare. It is a nightmare. So word to the wise, just start out, keep it clean. Keep it clean.
Yeah.
And I think it gives us like a good layout of the data room, because it doesn't matter which stage you are, you need to have the data room.
You do.
If you are asking for investment, because investors basically they're buying a portion of the company.
That's right.
When now it gets like the MAs, they're buying the whole company. So I think from like a small pieces to like the whole company, the founders should be ready. And like so now there's a common question we get: if somebody doesn't want it to sell, if somebody doesn't want it to exit, do they need to incorporate like as a C corp in Delaware? And if somebody wanted to sell and have investors, is there like a mandate to incorporate as a C corp in Delaware? Like in your experience, because it's just like they say this is kind of like the norm.
It is. It is. And the institutional investments, they're typical. They're registered in Delaware. They've got RAs out there. And that's what they do. But here's the thing. If you are set up as an LLC in Texas today and you're operating and you grow and you get to a certain point and you're looking to take on investment dollars, they can change your corporate entity structure, your legal entity structure at any time. So if that's very, very important to them, it might cost you $1,500 to get all the paperwork and legal stuff done to make that happen, but they can make that happen when the time is right. So you're not necessarily doing anything wrong, not starting out as a legal entity that you think they would like to see later on.
So have you seen ever like investors invest in an LLC?
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Depending on what type of investment you're going to take and so forth, a lot of them, it matters. The corporate structure really matters. They want C or S corps for a very specific reason. Even if you're an LLC filing as an S corp or something, that's still not right. They want it changed. But like I said, the truth is they can change your legal entity at any time.
So it's just more depending on the investor, but the norm of the industry is do like the C corp in Delaware. So when you invest as like an angel investor, do you look for C corp in Delaware as an angel investor, or you just don't care?
I don't care. We've done angel investments with sole proprietors that we ask them the next calendar year in January, go ahead and set up your S corp type thing. So I don't care at that level. Institutional cares. They have to have everything set up very differently. Very differently.
So if somebody is looking for going from angel investors, then the exit strategy is to go raise institutional money and go public. Then they need to think about that ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. At least check into it at a minimum.
Yeah.
For sure. But it's not much harder to do. You can do it online. You can do it. You don't even need an attorney. You've got to get a bunch of legal documentation done with it. and be able to file everything appropriately, but you can do it very inexpensively yourself.
Great, thank you.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes. If you could please come up to the purple circle and grab the mic from the stool, and then tell us who you are.
Good afternoon. My name is Navid Gadami. I'm with Big S, and we build a microclimate vertical growing system. My question is the ERPs. So what I've tried to do so far, I'm the CEO for it, and we have basically incorporated all the items that you have mentioned on the operation side. And we also have the financial side on the QuickBooks. And I've looked at the Odoo and a couple other products, and we don't have all the things that they offer to us. We don't have, it doesn't apply to us. Even though we have vendors, we have customer base and all that stuff, we have set that up. One of the reasons that I looked at Odoo is that they do support third-party apps very well. And so we don't have to go ahead and reinvent the wheel like our website, our retail, and all that stuff. Would that, my question is, would our Excel sheets on operation, all that stuff, would that satisfy an early investment? We have to have that system.
You can provide it, and they'll need to verify it. So there's ways of doing that. So let's say that you're providing inventory status or something like that. If you've got things like invoices to back that up and sales and so forth, if you can show a dashboard and then have the backup for it, yes, you could probably get away with that in a very early stage startup as you're looking for money. Long term, it won't work.
No,
It
we understand on
definitely
the
won't
long-term
work.
basis. On the dashboard, what you're referring to is what?
Well, it depends. If you're on an ERP, like Odoo has a dashboard.
Oh, so you're still talking about an ERP.
Yeah,
No matter
yeah.
what, we need to get on an ERP,
I
and
think
the Excel sheets will not do.
I think if you're in manufacturing of any kind like that, I think you absolutely need to be on some kind of ERP right out of the gate. And a lesser expensive one like Odoo, you don't need to go and bite off NetSuite or something right out of the gate.
No, we don't.
But to have the inventory control mechanisms, the supply chain oversight, and all of that, where you can export data and send reports out of the system, that's perfect.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, David. Yeah, and please hold the mic up when you're speaking. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
good afternoon, guys. My name is Veer. Just a question about so in this modern age of AI where you can build anything software, like any software with just a few prompts, do you see acquisitions continuing to happen for just IP, or is it more so like are companies acquiring users? Are they what are they acquiring?
That is a fabulous question. And I don't even know if I'm qualified to answer it, to be honest with you. I think we are in the wild, wild west. That's what I think. So all things could be true and possible at the same time. I just really don't know. Do you guys have a big opinion on that?
And I think the way the industry, everything is moving forward. The problem is you don't know even the company exists in few months, right? So you just build something, and then OpenAI and Microsoft are building much more better. And that's the problem. A lot of VCs now are paddling back. Most of them are, losing money on the initial investment when it was like, oh my God, AI, we need to do it. Now they are paddling back. So with AI and everything moving super fast, everything is just like uncertain right now. So it's just a lot of things that needs to be figured out moving forward. It's just a lot of
Totally.
questions to be answered.
Something that I've been aware of too is that we're going back to in-person experiences a lot more because of like the AI slop and like what we're seeing. So I've heard that we're gonna go back to more physical things, more in-person type of things. So it's definitely interesting to
Yeah.
watch that happen in real time and like be part of the ecosystem, right? Be witnessing it.
I think depending on who you follow online and their investment strategy and everything, they're all different. They're all saying not the same thing. So you really just have to lean into who you feel best about. Honestly, that's a fantastic question, though.
That makes sense. And just a very quick follow up. Like, I know you said that different investors and different founders have like different views on whether they acquire for just IP. Would you acquire a software startup for just IP in this age of AI?
Me? I guess it depends on how far along they are, what their revenue and customer base looks like.
So
That
you
would
would
be my
acquire
big
their
question.
customers as well, not just the promising looking.
I would, if I'm writing a check for your company, I would want every piece of data about your company that I could pull out of it and extract. Because nowadays the data is worth as much as a lot of the others. So, but yeah, I would have to see what stage you're in. Have you not launched yet and you've got 2 customers and no revenue? Maybe that would be okay.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you guys so much.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. We have one more time for one more question.
All right. Thank you. This was very informative. So I've been in corporate for many, many years and decided to go and be a founder about 6 years ago. So I loved listening to the PPT story, which was very easy to execute when I was in the corporate world. However, it is extremely hard, and I've got my direct advisor and 2 advisors at large sitting here listening to me say this. It's very difficult for me to execute the PPT in my company right now in Zrathas. So leaving that aside, if I was to start building my data repository, which I mentioned that I am, can you tell me how I would share that information? Because we get all kinds of different ideas on how that information should be shared with investors.
So there's all kinds of platforms, obviously. If you're a Microsoft shop, you can put it on OneDrive, you can put it on Google. At the end of the day, I don't think any of that matters how you are able to share it, unless or until you get into confidential information and you need encryption and things like that. That gets a little dicier. A lot of the ERPs, or at least like the big ones, have all of this built in for you with the ability to share your document repository, share specific files only, all the things. But even Google Drive and, Microsoft, OneDrive, they've all got all of the security and stuff that you would need for that. My recommendation on the whole document repository and having this data room is just keep it simple. I have gone into companies where they made their naming convention be all numbers with 4 letters at the end, and the 4 letters meant something that you had to memorize. And I just thought, could we just name the document what it is? I don't know. How about NDA and the last name of the person that signed it? I mean, could we just
And a
get
date.
really basic here? Yeah, a date, put a date at the end of everything so it'll be in order. At any rate, yeah, these are just things that you can get as fancy as you like, but I think there's definite value in just keeping it simple. And if you do have some technology needs to be able to encrypt files and things like that, there's software out there that'll do it.
Okay, so go with an ERP to be the safest, right?
It might be,
Okay.
yeah.
And in reference to the data that we keep there, agreements, right, with different people that you've had, if those agreements are no longer in you being used, right? The person's left or something's happened. Do we still keep those for a trajectory of where you started from and where you are, or do you not need to keep those then?
I would. I mean, there's different laws with regards to HR files. So you'll want to check the laws relevant in your state and area for what you're required to keep and for how long as it relates to, HR stuff. As it relates to customer contracts, if the contract has been replaced or the customer left or whatever the case might be, archive it, but keep it. Just keep it in a separate archive folder.
Okay, all right. Thank you. And I think Veer asked my AI question, and I think about it a little differently, but I'll leave that one alone now. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rekha.
Thank you. And we have.
Do you have time for one more?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
It's gonna be quick.
For you,
So-
we do, Giorgio.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
You gotta tell us who you are, though, and what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Giorgio Villani, and I have a company called Token Roster. My company specifically does a lot of the things that you had mentioned are important for investors. We provide a data room as well where they can load their documentation. And essentially, the platform itself does investor readiness reports. So it goes through all the documentation that somebody has, like if you have a business plan, you have your pitch deck, you have information about your particular team. It will do the analysis and then provide that report to an investor and basically say, okay, well, we've done the analysis. Here you go. It's like a pre-screening for due diligence. So we say, hey, we went through all their documentation. This is what we've gathered. It also gives them information about what they could do moving forward, like if they don't have a system that helps them, manage their documentation or anything like that. It also gives them recommendations. If their team is just a one-person CTO, then it says, okay, well, you need to have somebody a little bit more focused on that. So it does all this analysis, and then it provides it to them. My question is specifically because my framework is composable, so each investment groups, they can basically come up with their own thesis, their own focus, and the reports, once the data room is on the platform, they can run a customized report for that particular investor. So my question is, yeah. So basically, what I'm doing right now is I'm going to my go-to-market strategies. I focus on incubators, accelerators, VCs, all these different angel investor groups, and so I try to customize their framework. So they have to have so just like the startups, they have to have their own documentation on what they're trying to do and what they're trying to achieve and what the minimums are.
So just to be clear, your customer is the investor or the startup?
It's primarily the investors, the
Okay.
investor groups, the incubators, and things like that. Even though I do provide services for the startup, like every time they run a report, they basically get a full description of what they need to do. I also have a template that I just created that basically creates a framework for a questionnaire that asks the startup founder, hey, what's your business? And it organizes all their internal documentation so it could be submitted to the platform and sent to an investor. This is a long-winded way of saying. So for me,
why he's here.
I'm doing my go-to-market strategy. I'm hitting people up. But how do you find deals? Like when you go out and do you find deals because people hit you up individually? Do you do it through an investor group? And what kind of process do you have individually?
Me personally, I'm part of a 12-person, very small angel investment group. And we do 1 to 3 deals a year, and they're not our biggest ticket deal we ever did was in 2022 for about 260,000. So I'm not some big high dollar person roaming around out there, but the way that we get our deals is we have one person in our group that's in charge of vetting any inquiries that come in. And he takes those and he runs through about 10 steps with them and figures a bunch of stuff out, pulls a bunch of number, and mainly does the market research to understand what's already out there and that sort of thing. And then if he thinks it's hot and something everybody else should take a look at, then we get called in and we see it for the first time at that point. So that's how ours works. As far as where these come from, word of mouth primarily. We're part of a small little angel network, Central Texas area. And so at any rate, Yeah, it's literally that simple, but there's all kinds of networks. I definitely need to talk to you after this meeting, though. I need to learn more about your product.
That sounds great.
Sounds amazing. Sounds amazing.
Just one follow-up question. If you got more deal flow, like if you were able to see more deals and process them in a scalable way, would that improve your business?
Probably, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Absolutely,
And thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Giorgio. Giorgio's going to be starting his own show sometime soon. We're waiting on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like it's just my fault being super busy, but we're gonna partner with Giorgio and his platform for our deal flow because
Awesome.
it's gonna get much more easier when you have a partner that does all the
All that vetting.
and just everything
Yeah.
that you want is just there. And,
Very exciting.
he's building every day more features, so it's just like heaven for investors.
And he's out there. You see him everywhere. He's
Yeah.
connecting to all
Yep.
the startup founders and the investors and the ecosystems. So yes,
Yep.
thank you for that
Phenomenal.
question. Thank you everybody for your questions. Julie will be here for a little bit after the show, so we can continue to ask questions. But we should close the episode out. Any final words you want to say?
Oh no, thank you so much for being
You are
here. I
very
really
welcome.
appreciate it. It was great understanding what is the end game and planning from for day one, and the value of putting things together to be ready at any moment for that day that you get that phone call. Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want
Happy to
to.
be
I
here.
want to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
We should have called this episode day one. I
Yeah.
like that this is day one for everybody.
Totally. Totally.
And we can plan with the end in mind. Thank you, anybody that's here in person. We have a full house today. Thank you for anybody listening online. We're on YouTube and Instagram, and maybe LinkedIn. I don't think LinkedIn made it today. But we're on YouTube and Instagram. Thank you for listening digitally. Thank you to 801 Travis and the Innovation Hub and Iron Grove as our sponsors and partners. And come back next week as we continue innovating within Houston's system, within Houston's innovation system, and creating this ecosystem one conversation at a time. Follow funded or noblefounder.com. You can look up noblefounder.com to learn more about the ecosystem that we're building and everything that it entails. And thank you again.
Yeah, and today we are gonna have our first ecosystem hangout after this show. This is what we call it.
Yes, there's food and
Yeah.
juice.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, you guys made that painless. Thank you very much.
Thank you.